Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to my channel, I Hate Rock Music. And this video is going to be about a really cool rural rock band from the UK called Bronco. And there's a really interesting subgenre in the UK. I find that a lot of UK bands kind of mind Americana, and bands like Cochise come to mind, and Head, Hands, and Feet, and bands like that who definitely kind of mimic a lot of American styles, and in this case, definitely kind of a rural rock feel. There's a lot of folk elements, tinge of country, and just an interesting subgenre. And I think Bronco is one of the best ones. And so they were around from 1969 to 1973. The main band was Jess Rodden on vocals. He's kind of the focal point. After he left the band, he did a number of solo records, and he previously was in the Alan Bound set. So you have Jess Rodden on vocals, John Pasternak on bass, Pete Robinson on drums, Robbie Blunt on guitar, and Kevin Grammond on guitar. Robbie Blunt, of course, is another known quantity. He ended up in Silverhead, the glam rock band from 1972, 73, 74, and also is in a blues rock band called Broken Glass. I'll be doing a video on that included Stan Webb from Chicken Shack and Miller Anderson from the Keith Hartley band. And so Robbie Blunt also ended up in Robert Plant's band. So he had ended up having quite a pedigree. So that original band recorded two albums, Country Home in 1970 and Ace of Sunlight in 1971, both of them on Island Records, produced by Guy Stevens and Jess Rodden. So they're recorded really well. And I just think they're really excellent. Some of the best examples of rural rock to come out of the UK, and a real fine band. Jess Rodden's vocals are really strong. I'm not sure if he's strong enough to be a solo artist, but within the context of this band, he was really excellent. Has a classic kind of blues shouter voice in a way, although a lot of the music on this album is more folk and country oriented. Um, but he's got that classic British sound. There's a couple of hard rockers that finish up the first album, Country Home, and then Ace of Sunlight has a rocker on it that was released as a single that's really strong now. I can't remember the name of the single. It'll come to me. But so they showed that they could rock really hard. So there's like three songs between the two albums, and there's a couple of other songs that are more folk oriented that build up with a little more hard rock drama. And so, classic move by a lot of these British bands of the era. Although in this case, they definitely focus in on more of the folkier kind of stuff, or light rock. But I got to give it to them. The songs are really generally pretty strong. There's a lot of emotional quality to the songs. The ballads are really strong. Everything's pretty understated, as I mentioned, with the band lineup, a really strong lineup. So you get a good rhythm section, good vocals. There's some nice harmony vocals, and Robbie Blunt's guitar work. Gammond as well, but Robbie Blunt's guitar work particularly is a standout, and I can see how he would thrive uh, both with this band and after this band. And so Robbie Blunt and Jess Rodden left, and they put together a second version of the band with Paul Lockey on vocals and Dan Fone on guitar, and released a third album, Smoking Mixture, in 1973 on Polydor. So after a 2 year break, they came back out with this new lineup, and it duplicates the sound of the original Bronco pretty well. Paul Lockey is definitely somewhat reminiscent of Jess Rodden. Dan Fone isn't quite as good a guitar player as Robbie Blunt, but he does a pretty ample job. But they definitely still are kind of in the folk, country, lighter rock vein. But in this case, they add a lot more extra overdubs. There's a lot of orchestra on the record. There's horn section on different songs, and definitely a lot fuller record. And somehow manages to keep the feel of the original two Bronco albums but definitely a different lineup with a different sound, and ultimately is a lot different record, and doesn't have as strong a songwriting as the first two, but still a pretty decent record. And I think they replicated the sound of the band well enough to include it in the Bronco lineup of albums, and definitely worth getting. I think it gets better as I listen to it more. But those first two albums, Country Home and Ace of Sunlight from 70 and 71, are both really excellent and well worth having. Needless to say, the links are posted below. Both albums were released in the United States too. I think they saw the possibility that something like this could reach American audiences, and I know they were uh, thought of well by the press, so they got really good reviews, and definitely were known for their live shows. I found one short live clip on YouTube of them, kind of a promo thing, and I'll attach that below. And there's apparently a BBC live show of them out there, but nobody's posted it, and I don't know if it's been published at all. But they did do a BBC show, and I'd be really curious to hear that. I'd really like to hear what this band sounded like live. I assume they were probably a little more forceful. But two classic UK rural rock albums. I think they should be in every collection. Country Home, Ace of Sunlight, the band Bronco. Check them out. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching.